Hello, everyone. Welcome to LLK number 55. That is Knit with Laura and Lola. I'm Laura Nelkin. I'm a knitwear designer, and I am joined by my alter ego, Lola. Laura, myself, can be pretty staid, reserved, not that reserved, but pretty in control. And Lola, my alter ego, is spicy and lots of fun, and she pops out a lot in these lives. If you are watching me now, there is a chat box, and you all can be chatting along in the chat box. It's very fun at the beginning of lives for you to all introduce yourselves and say where you're coming in from so that people watching later can see who's watching from all over the world. And if you are watching later, welcome. You can have that chat box enabled or not as you're watching it if you want to kind of follow along with what people are saying as I talk. You will see as we do the live that I try to not read the chat too much because I get distracted very easily and then forget what I'm doing entirely. But every so often I might ask if there's a question and I'll look over at the chat to see if there is one. At the end of the live, I will ask if there's any questions. So if you could save your questions till the end and ask them then in the chatter, that would be great. You might find that I cover your question by the time we get to the end of the live. Everything I talk about in the live, there will be links for below the video when it is all said and done. I have them all ready to go. I'll add anything else that I talk about and then publish them. So if you come back to the video about like an hour after it's over, everything will be there for you. And if you're watching later, all of those links are there right now. That said, I've been doing these lives for a while now. I haven't done one since October, and I'm a tiny bit overwhelmed with everything that I have to share with you tonight. In a nutshell, tonight's live is going to talk about pOWLcho, which is my poncho change to the cOWL MCal. That was Jennifer's idea on Ravelry, and I kind of ran with it. I'm going to talk about a lot of other things that are off my needles since we had the last live. I'll also talk about what's on my needles, like what I am knitting right now, except for the thing that I'm knitting that you cannot see on purpose. I'm knitting right below the camera, and it's actually the next Lola's Choice thing, and I don't want you to see it, but it's very easy knitting for chatting and knitting. So I'm gonna put it down because it's gonna be seen. Okay, I tried to knit and chat, but maybe I can't. The next thing that we're going to talk about is this very fun iCord tool that I found on Instagram. I'm going to kind of tell you my story of finding this tool, and then I'm going to show you how I like to work with it. I'm going to teach you how to start and end with one, and also how to work with beads. So there's kind of like a learning moment with a new tool embedded into this live. And then finally, I'm going to talk to you about my travel plans for 2024 and 2025. I finally have dates for my next few trips, and I'm really excited to share all of those with you. Most of those trips will launch in January for signups. And then finally, after we do all of that, I'll talk about like what I'm reading and watching and eating, and then we'll have a giveaway at the very end. So that is tonight. I can see, I'm just like flipping around with the tool. I see people are asking about where to buy the tools. There will be links below about an hour after this is done. So I know I said I wouldn't read the chatter, but I know that that's a question that will be included with the links, and I'll explain all about that when we get to the tool part segment, let's call it. So I found when I do these lives, I have like a what's on my needles, what's off my needles, and then I have like something about yarn and something about what I'm reading. And I'm realizing we really need a tool section. I also normally have a sewing section if I have some sewing projects, but I think a tool section seems like I almost always have a new tool to share with you that I'm very excited about, or a new way to play with the tool. So looking forward to adding that into these lives. That said, let's start with what is off my needles, which is a fair amount. And I think the thing that's the most fun to start with is cOWL Mystery Knit Along, because that is off many of your needles too, because we were in the middle of the Mystery Knit Along when we shot the last live, and now we are about a few weeks out from that. We're at the beginning of December now, so it's been about a month since the end of the the cOWL mystery knit along. And Goldie behind me is wearing the cOWL. She's looking gorgeous. I have been wearing this cOWL, which I believe is Elf Owl kit from Fiber MacGyver. I've been wearing this one a ton, wrapped double around my neck. And I know a lot of people had questions about how to wear it. And I think that you're finding that the answer is to be effortless and just put it on and wrap it around your neck. And then you can wear it long when you get hot, right? But I think all the different colors show, all the different textures show as you wear it. It moves around, very, very fun. So when we were finishing up the mystery knit along, Jennifer, who's like Silver Dragon 323, I believe, on Ravelry, posted a version of cOWL where she did the bottom border just the same as I did it, but the top border she did decreases and kept working up into a cOWL shape. And I was like absolutely obsessed and had to try it. So I did that with the Eastern Screech kit that I was knitting along with you guys during the knit along. I finished the bottom border. I'd already actually done the top border and I took it out and then used the rest of the single skein to go up. And I'm going to show you how I did that, but I think something that's really fun that I found, because I've been kind of cleaning my studio and my office, I love to do that at the end of the year, is I found the drawing that I sent Susie when I was trying at Fiber MacGyver, when I was trying to explain to her what I was going to do with the kit. So I told Susie that I wanted 5 minis and 1 full skein to work on my concept. And I sent her this drawing where like each color was a mini, and I kind of sketched out where the minis were going to be in the hexies and in the squares, and then where the border was going to be and how it was finished off. And it's kind of fun, I think, to do these design moments where you see what things looked like as I was figuring it out. When I'm working with a dyer and working with kits, I have to have a pretty clear concept of what I'm doing so that we can kind of get the kits going ahead of time. This was a kind of more detailed version of where I was describing to her what I was doing and showing her where the graphs were and showing her where the different colors was. And then I was like, should each hexie have a different texture? And then I kind of gave this kind of written out steps of what it was going to look like. Yes, there were many showers as I was figuring this out. It was really fun. There were lots of little shower drawings in there at one point as I was trying to figure out like where the hexies would go and where the squares would go and how it would kind of come together. But what I can show you on this drawing is exactly how I make the pOWLcho or the poncho work from the cOWL. So if you worked the bottom border as written in the pattern, you would end up with one end looking just like this. And then if you pick up for the other border, just like is written for the first border all the way around your poncho, your cOWL, you see these points right here at each edge of the square. As you are working on the straight edge of the border, there are center double decreases happening right here at the squares, and then there are increases happening at the tip of the hexie, so that you're keeping the same number of stitches on your needles, but you're decreasing in here while you're increasing right here. And that's how you end up with this shape, right? At the edge where you're not changing your stitch count at all. You're just working with that pickup and working around and kind of filling in a little bit. But what the only difference with the poncho version is you don't do the increases right here, and you continue to do those center double decreases every knit row. So you're alternating knit rounds and purl rounds for the garter stitch. And then every knit round, you're working a center double decrease. And what that does is decrease off all of the square stitches and then half of this side of the hexie stitch, and decreases off your stitches. And then the other thing I did, because I really liked the line to mimic the line of the center double decrease is I had a knit stitch right at the tip at the center of every hexie going up. So I had like a knit stitch, and then I was working across center double decrease, knit across, knit stitch right there. So when you got to the purl rounds, that would be a knit and that would be a knit. And then if you look at me again, now that I've kind of explained that, you can see that knit line coming. It's very hard to do this in the camera. That knit line kind of coming up right there from the top of the hexie. And then you can see the, oh my God, so hard. The decreases right there and the decreases right there. And as that decreases off, it makes that triangle that comes to the tip. And then I worked that knit stitch as well to kind of keep that line coming in, because I didn't like it when this area was all blank. I actually kind of ripped and knit a few times to be like, do I want that to be a knit stitch? Don't I want that to be a knit stitch? But I absolutely love it. Just kind of organically shapes into the poncho from the cOWL. So I'm not going to end up writing up any mods or changing the pattern at all. I think that if you want to do this on yours, or if you make a second one at some point and you want to do one, just come back and watch me explain that. You'll understand the construction because you've already done the border on one side of it. And I think it'll be very easy to make that change to decrease up your stitches going up. And then you'll see I worked a few rounds. I actually worked less rounds in the beginning and I was excited to bind off. And then I actually wanted it to be a little taller. I love necklines that kind of come in like this. It's like a mock turtleneck. And I wanted it to close up a little bit more around my neckline. So I ended up working, I would say that's like 3.5, almost 4 inches up from where those triangles are done right there to get that kind of lovely little turtleneck or like mock turtleneck going up. So that's how I made the pOWLcho. Thank you, Jennifer. Such an awesome idea. One of the many things I love about mystery knit-alongs is you all bringing your energy to it and your creative pieces and inspiring me to do different things. I love doing cOWL mystery knit-alongs because they're smaller, and so many of you got it done in this way. When we do those really big shawly or like lacy mystery knit-alongs, I feel like a lot of people, there's more attrition, if you will. And this one felt like people really felt like it was accessible and they could do it. That said, I want to show you something else that's fun that I have been playing with, just because I think what's fun about these lives is like to get into the mind of a designer a little bit. So this is one way I design sometimes, is to kind of cut out pieces and play around. And so I've been kind of playing with what would happen if I did a something else with hexies. And let me see if I've got this right. Nope. Let's see if I remember how I did this. It was pretty cool at the time, and of course I'm going to forget exactly what I did. I've been just kind of playing around and seeing how shapes can happen. I think it was different. I think here we go. Oh, I remember. So fun. Welcome to my brain. So I had these out on the kitchen counter, and then whenever anybody was coming over to hang out, people have been playing with it and doing different layouts, which is super fun. And this is something you are welcome to play along with as well. So you can see I was like, what else can we do with hexies and squares? And I'm really loving, I know this isn't all fitting right here, I'm really loving this concept of starting with the hexie and then having squares grafted onto there. And I was kind of playing with like, could you do some shape like this, where you pick up stitches and decrease those, and then you have another square right there? Or could you have a square right there and just a triangle that you're filling in with? Could you keep building out from that? Yes, I think so. I think you could keep building out from that and make a blanket, make a rectangular blanket, make a round blanket. I'm not sure when I will get to doing something like this. This might be as far as I ever get with playing with more squares and hexies. You never know. I don't think another mystery knit along will have squares and hexies because I like to keep the mystery alive. This was the least thong looking mystery knit along I've ever done with you. So clearly in the future, We need more thongs again. I'm just going to move this over here because we're done talking about that and move on to the next things. So who is knitting Lolaette with me in Lowlember? I know many of you are in my countdown calendar, Lowlember, and the pattern that is released for everybody, whether you are in Lowlember or not, is called Lolaette. Lolaette plays with 25 mini skeins set, or you can go stash diving and get like 8 or 9 mini skeins, and then, or I think 8 mini skeins, and then have larger skeins that you fill out from. And the photos I'm about to show you are in black and white because I knit my Lolaette in a Emma's Yarn Small A Days set, and that set I can't reveal the color photos until December 26th. So some of you are like keeping up and actually on the day. Some of you are even going faster and opening your days a little early, or if you're stash diving, you don't technically have to wait to open up the next day of your Advent yarn set. So here's some photos to just give you an idea of what Lolaette looks like for people who have not seen it. I see that lots of people are keeping up, which is pretty exciting. This is a good chance for me to like look at the chat while you're looking at photos. So Lolaette is otherwise known as the 8 thongs of Lola because you are knitting 8 wedges first, and then on day 9 those wedges get joined together. And here's just another photo of it where you can really see the pie shawl shaping of it. And I realized if you were in the Lowlember release, I found today some process photos when I was designing Lowlember. I took some photos to really show the construction. So this is what it looks like when you have grafted all of your wedges together, but you've not worked that center yet, and you've not picked up around the outside. And this is the moment where you all should say, "Holy Stitch Saver, Batman." There's a lot of Stitch Saver hanging right there. The wedges are fun to knit. I think you're finding once you get into them and you get into the groove and your hands know what to do with that Stitch Saver as it's getting carried up the side. And then this is a photo where I had the center on double pointed needles and I was getting ready to work in with the center. So I think that's a really good close up of that step for you all to see those. And I'll put those up on Ravelry for people when you get to that point to really understand what is happening right there with Lolaette. So yay, Lolaette. So fun. In the round, glorious. Once you've picked up stitches all the way around all those wedges, you are just working in the round. So you're knitting in the round, and then when you get to the garter ridges, you're purling in the round. You are rolling a die to know how many knit rounds you're working and which lace repeat you're working based on the die that you roll. And I can tell that people are really excited to get to that point because it's when things become a little bit of a game. And I've really had my eye, I'm home right now, and I've really had my eye on you in the Ravelry group and the Facebook group. So any questions that go up, I catch you right away and make sure that everybody's on track and having success to keep you moving forward with your Lolettes. So the next thing that I want to talk about is Circle of, let me make sure I'm on, is Circle of Light. And Circle of Light is hanging behind me on the wall. I also have a photo here that I took at sunrise right after I knit my Circle of Light. Circle of Light is knit with a 66-foot strand of LED fairy lights. I have knit with fairy lights before when I knit Starry Light, and then when I did Love and Light with Jen Hohenboken. And Circle of Light is definitely easier than Starry Light if you got stuck on Starry Light and you still have a 66-foot strand of lights waiting to be something. It is basically kind of like a wreath or a circle, and you can coat a town and decorate it or not. This photo I really wanted to show you because that little light in the background is actually the full moon, and I didn't even notice it when I was taking the photos. And then when I got inside, it was freezing out. And when I got inside, I was like, holy, I got the moon in the background. I love that. I love when that happens. Behind me, over my, that's gonna be my right shoulder, oh my gosh, I could never teach yoga, over my right shoulder is a circle of light that I took to the Cornell Botanical Gardens last weekend, and I did a wreath making workshop. And I've done some dried flower wreaths. I have never done an evergreen wreath because I did not grow up with the people who made evergreen wreaths. That's all I'm going to say there. And it was hard, and mine looks a little wonky, but like I don't have years of experience decorating with evergreen. I'm still, I'm a newbie to this. I made it for a friend who celebrates Christmas, and I'm going to be gifting it to her next week. But I have a kind of funny takeaway. I mean, I love how organic and playful and fun it is. I love that light in the center of it. I don't think that one could hang it on their door because I think it's a little too fragile, and I don't think I secured things well enough, and it's going to fall apart if somebody's opening and closing a door, but maybe like next to a door, it would do really well. But I'm going to tell you that my people don't typically decorate with evergreens. That was not I grew up Jewish, and I have never experienced evergreen in my house, and there are like needles everywhere. And how do you people do that? You have so much cleanup to do. I have like this newfound respect for people who decorate with fresh fir and evergreen because it's already stressing me out, just like this little bit that's here, and now it's on the floor of the studio, and Max was like cringing as I moved it, and he saw them falling. Already like dust busted a bunch of times. So it's gonna go outside, and then it's gonna go to my friend, and yeah, live and learn. Kind of cool, right? I've got a newfound appreciation for y'all, and I do love it. I mean, I'm really glad you guys are laughing. I always worry when I say stuff like that. Like, am I going to piss somebody off? I don't want to make anybody angry. Even the phony ones fall off, I hear. Okay, I'm looking at the chat because, come on, this is a good time. Okay, so that is Circle of Light. I hope those of you who are knitting it are having a good time. There's a thread in my Ravelry group. Ask questions if you have any. There's also a video on my channel if you want to watch how to knit it step by step. That's released for everybody. So after Circle of Light, we're going to talk about Starola, which released... Oh, I forgot something super quick. There is a kit that is a giveaway for making a pOWLcho just like mine on Instagram and on Facebook. So there is a giveaway up on my Facebook page and a giveaway up on Instagram, and you can enter both of them. I'm not tracking to see you already entered one and you didn't enter another. Susie from Fiber MacGyver really sweetly offered 2 kits for a giveaway, and I'm doing a giveaway every week on Instagram for the month of December, but I'm not going to keep doing them on Facebook because I keep having these like stupid troll people make fake pages and try to sell you weird shit. And Facebook is so good for some things, and then other things it's just too much to manage, and I forgot not to push a giveaway there. So sorry about that for those of you who got kind of heebie-jeebied by the fake Lola trying to get at you. Next up, Starola. So part of Lolember has other kind of like little goodies. It had a pattern in it this week for a dishcloth called Starola that is made out of Skipper, which is a really lovely 100% tangui, I think that's how you say it, cotton from Kelbor Woolens. One skein will make one small one, one big one and one small one, or it'll make 3 small ones. And I forget who mentioned this yesterday on Facebook. Someone was like, I'm going to use really tiny needles and make the smaller one and make a coaster. So I did that last night. It was actually surprisingly hard on my hands. I held this sparkly yarn along with it. I'm going to kind of go to the overhead so you can see the sparkly yarn in there because you can really see it in there. It was hard to knit because cotton yarn's not elastic, and I did it on like size 1 needles. But we have... this summer on our island in our kitchen, we left a container with some tomatoes that juiced a little bit, and it kind of stained our butcher block, and we need to kind of sand it out someday. But I just made a cover for the stain, and so that's what this coaster is going to be for. I think I'm very slick right now because I'm getting out of sanding my butcher block all winter this winter. So that's kind of fun. All I did was follow the small pattern for Starola and use small needles, but you might want to do it in like 2 or 3 sessions just to give your hands a break. I was just like determined to get it done for tonight. And what I'm doing with all of these Starolas is they are going to be holiday gifts with a bar of soap. With a locally made bar of soap. I bought some extras of that Northern Lights soap that you all got in your little lumber kit from Avital's Apiaries, and I think that's like a really fun little gift to give, like a washcloth and a bar of homemade local soap. So I know some of you are thinking about doing that as well. Patricia said she used a 2.5 millimeter, and I think I used a 2.25, Patricia, and it was you, Patricia. Hi. Yay. Pat Oliver, that's who it was. See, I can do this. The Northern Lights soap that y'all got. I know not everybody's in low lumber, so I don't want to like make this too low lumbery, but the Northern Lights soap is yummy and like spectacular and like a galaxy. And there's definitely a subtle theme throughout low lumber of the Northern Lights. I couldn't do it for everything. Like I couldn't get a bandana with Northern Lights on it. I tried. They were super cheesy looking. I tried to find a few and we didn't want them. I wanted to find something we want to have, right? But there's this kind of underwriting Northern Lights theme because I'm obsessed with seeing Northern Lights lately. And yes, moving on from that. I'm so glad you like this soap. Squirrel. January's Lola's choices off my needles. I forgot like what even segment I'm hanging out so hard with you guys. That is off my needles, but I'm knitting a second one because the first one that came off my needles is beautiful, but it is a little bit elevated on a skill level. And I know many of you are very capable of it, but some of you might see it and be like, I just don't feel like it. Like, I don't want to do that much lace. So I'm doing a second version that is a little bit simpler, and I'm having such a good time with it because it's really yummy yarn and it's a fun pattern to knit. So I've got a second one on the needles, and I'm just going to squeak in another photo shoot to get a few more photos of this other version. I really like in my clubs to give choices. I think when you give choices, it helps people kind of see the possibilities more than when things are like one way or the highway. I said that. Finally, I'm going to show you this quickly because it's a horrible photo because it came yesterday and I took a picture of it. So what do you guys think this is? This is a bad picture of a good sweater. This is a long sleeve Bling Tee in a new color. I forget the name of this color again. It is another color of Leading Men Fibers Arts. I just forget what they call this one. I'm adding some new colors of Bling Tee kits to the shop in the coming weeks. And then everybody who has bought Bling Tee will get an updated version of the pattern with the long sleeve version. And what I'm going to do is make kind of like one listing on Etsy for the tanks, the tee, and the long sleeve, and just tell you how many skeins of yarn based on what size you want to make and what pattern you want to make. I think it's going to be easier than having separate listings. So I'm going to figure that out and then get some yarn ordered from Leading Men, and that'll probably come out at this rate. Knowing with the holidays, it'll come out in January at some point. But if any of you are ready to cast on, like for real, you're ready to cast on, I do have that pattern ready to go. I'm just figuring out yardages for the sleeves. So reach out to me, but don't reach out to me just because you want to get it early. Reach out to me because you were ready to cast on and you want to make the long sleeve and you have enough yarn. That's me setting limits or making sure I don't get too much email, one or the other. Susie's making a black one. That's going to be sexy, Susie. Sexy long sleeve Bling Tee. I love it. It is blue steel, Kelly. Look at you. I feel like if I could give you a donut through the camera, I would right now because that was awesome. Okay, long sleeve Bling Tee. Next up on my needles. Believe it or not, this is a sweater. This is a baby Novice, and I'm going to show you photos of it so you know what it's going to look like when it's done. My friend's son is having a baby, and his baby shower with his wife is on Saturday, and I'm really almost done with this. It is going to be done. But what I have done with baby Novice is a side-to-side construction, and I have figured out how to hold stitch saver while I'm doing this construction, which makes it so freaking much faster because there is no more picking up of stitches. There is no more unzipping of provisional cast-ons and then trying to get all those stitches back onto your needle. So if I hold this insanity up, you can, guys, this is half a sweater. I promise you it's half a sweater, but you can see, it might be a little hard to see. You can see the stitch saver here, and you see the stitch saver over here. That is one length of stitch saver that is going from the bottom of the sweater along the sleeve, just kind of across the bottom. It's held up the other side of the sleeve and then down to the other end. So when I go to do this side panel right here, and those of you who've knit a Novice sweater with me before, this is going to be a little bit more clear than those of you who haven't knit this construction yet. When I go to the side panel, I'm just going to be able to slide all of those stitches onto my needle. And for the back panel, it's kind of the exact same thing. I've already got my back stitches for the left side on my needle. And this is my right half right here. In Novice side-to-side sweater world, we call this the uterine stage of the sweater. I'll be able to take these stitches right here, slide them onto the needle, and start working the back panel. And that is what I am going to be doing with you right now so that I can cast on, so that I can knit the back panel while I'm watching some fun Hallmark movie tonight when this is over. So if I go to the overhead camera, there we go. You all can see that. I know I want to make sure, I know that you can't see the whole thing right now. And what Max and I are actually going to do is film a how to adjust your Novice pattern for using Stitch Saver video. And I'll do that with like a little teeny tiny sweater so that you can really see all the steps. But what I'm going to do is take this needle, put it onto the stitch saver right there. It is coming off the left back. And then I'm going to pull the stitch saver and then just get all of these stitches. Kind of push that through right there. Oh, by the way, I'm using my Indian Lake needles that I got at Rhinebeck all the time. And I love them so much. Okay, I got all those stitches onto the needle. I can take off my stitch saver. And now I am all set up and ready to cast on to this bottom needle right here and start to work that bottom border. So yay, Stitch Saver. I love discovering new things as I knit, and I love to share them with you. So that is on my needles. And in January, February, I think we're going to have, oh, sorry, main camera. Back to me. You didn't want to just look at my nice piece of slate. In January, February, baby Novice is going to get rewritten for the Stitch Saver. I have a DK Waitin Novice jacket pattern that's going to come out that's be rewritten for the Stitch Saver. And then I'm working on a new long sleeve, kind of lacy fun side-to-side Novice sweater to kind of celebrate this new way of using Stitch Saver. So you can look for that in the near to distant future. How's that for vague? But working on the new is so fun. And let's see what else. Oh, okay, this is the other things. I am waiting for the yarn for the first shipment of the N Club. I have already figured out the first kind of tool goodie for the N Club, and the yarn is coming, so I'll be casting on for that. In the new year, the first kit ships in March. Signups are open for the N Club. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, N Club is kind of like my bigger deep dive. It's bigger projects. It's a deep dive. We have a private Facebook group. You have a little bit more like time with me to go over questions, and we do bigger projects than Lola's Choice together. And if you kind of look back at the patterns that I've done for the N Club over the year, that'll give you a good idea of the projects that are done if it's something that you'd be interested in. And that club is only open until it sells out, and it's not sold out yet. It typically does always sell out every year. Things sell out slower than they used to. That's just the nature of now, and I'm fine with it. It just means I have to talk about it more, which gets a little like meh. That's how I feel about it. Meh. I love the club. I don't love having to sell it. Okay, next up on that. This is the other thing I'm knitting for me because I wear sweaters a lot in the winter. Who remembers Lancha Sweater? Let me see if I can get back to Lancha here. This is Lancha Sweater. Lancha Sweater I knit with Manchalopi at the end of last spring. I think I knit it actually in a week when I had COVID last December, and then it was ready to launch in the spring, but we actually like really launched it in August. I love Lancha, and I have had my eye on this unspun yarn from Sweden called Nutiden that I found out about right when I was knitting with the Manchalopi, and it's very hard to get. It sells out very quickly. I started following the woman who makes it on Instagram. I signed up for her Patreon for a while so that I could get like earlier access to shopping. And I had to stay up till like midnight or 1 a.m. when the store opened up, because she kind of opens up so people in Europe can shop and people in the US can shop. This color is glorious. It is my spirit color. I forget the name of it, but it's like this kind of grayed out eggplanty yumminess. It goes so well with the pOWLcho that I am wearing. And I am making myself a Lancha sweater out of it that is going to be warm and yummy and wear incredibly well. I would say this yarn might be a tiny bit toothier than the Manchalopi, but I'm pretty sure when I soak it, I will soak it with some conditioner in the wash just to kind of like coat it a little bit. And I think it's going to be super, super soft to wear. And I'm very excited to have this. And this will be my pick it up and put it down sweater. It might not be done until next winter at this rate, or like maybe by the time I do fall trips, it'll be ready. But it's such an easy pattern for those of you who knit Lancha sweater. It's really like the sleeve. Once you get that little patterning done at the bottom, you're just kind of knitting in the round. The hardest thing with any single ply yarn is that it breaks really easily, so you can't yank it. It doesn't travel well. Like I wouldn't put this into my bag and be knitting on it as I'm like going around. It's really like got its basket. As I knit, it's really important to release some of the yarn from the ball and then knit off of that and then release more of it. But if I go to like yank it, it will totally break. I do have a whole video on how to knit with unspun yarn that goes over those things. I will say that a difference is that the Manchalopi came with 2 strands held together when it was spun together. This is 1 strand coming off of the cake. So I did kind of rewind it into a ball to work off of. Isn't that like a very satisfying ball? Yum. Yum, yum, yum. I love it so much too. So I can see a few of you kind of excited about the Nutiden. I had my eye on that for a while, and when I saw that color she does different colors every kind of like time she opens up the shop. And when I saw that was one, I got like, and Max was with me when I was on the internet. I was like control R-ing to refresh the screen to like wait for the shop to go live. It is a satisfying ball, Sarah. Thank you for seeing Lola in all of her glory. Okay. I think that's everything on my needles. That was a lot. So, and I talked about yarn at the same time. So I just did yarn and on my needles together in my little categories. I'm like dancing. Have a sip. And then we're going to go into the tools. I'm just looking at, I was quickly kind of looking at the chat, but I don't see anything that needs to get answered and I'm not supposed to do that anyway. So before we get into this, I want to tell you something. Who noticed that my nails are sparkly as all get out? So, you know me by now. And over the last year, have you noticed my nails have gotten nicer, more done? So I really don't like doing my nails. I'm a bit of a salt of the earth kind of gal deep down inside. It is not my thing. It feels gross. I don't like covering them up. They can't breathe. But we all hear critiques better than we hear, or more strongly than we hear positive stuff. And one day on Instagram, I hadn't done my nails, and I think I'd been gardening, and I think one of my cuticles was really funky and ugly, and somebody told me my nails were disgusting and that they looked really gross and I should be ashamed. Like, it said all that words about my nails. And I know that that was one person, but I really heard that. And then I was in some group on Ravelry, and somebody was talking about how it really grossed them out when they watch YouTube videos and people's nails are gross and it makes them not want to watch the video. And then everybody was kind of like talking about all the designers whose nails they like. And I was like, oh, I really got to get with the nail game, even if I do not like it, because it matters. And then it does, because it's like, when your nails are distracting, I don't like it, but I think when they look clean, it's easier to concentrate on the technique and not like on like dirt underneath a fingernail or something. So I'm gonna just do this overhead. I can't believe I'm doing the nail thing. So I realized that I was going live tonight, and my nails, I really needed to get them done. I might have to fix something in a sec. We just got some drop in wire, Max. If you hear me in your earpiece, some wires fell into the light. I noticed that my manicure had like super grown out, and the nail bed was showing, and a few of them had like chipped and cracked, and I was like, oh, I can't drive an hour into Ithaca to get my nails done. So my trick, so whenever you see me with glittery nails anywhere, I just put a bunch of glitter nail polish over the top. It covers everything. It's like so sparkly. All you can see is the sparkle. You can't, so use this trick too if you ever do not feel like getting your nails done. Just like slap some sparkle on there. So I'm about to sparkle you with my sparkle nails. Are you ready? Some lights fell into a light over here, but so if I start to smell a fire, I'm gonna jump up and deal with that. But for now, we'll just let that go. You can't see it, so it's not bugging you. Okay, 3-stitch I-cord tools. I've got 2 of them to show you. One of them is called the Cordsmith, and one of them is called a fine triple stitch I-cord tool. I'm going to tell you about both of them, but first I want to tell you about the story of how these I-cord tools happened. So I was on Instagram one night. It was like a Friday night. I was home on the couch. I was loving life on the couch, and I was scrolling through Instagram. I was on Facebook. My friend Barbara Reynolds posted a video on her personal Facebook page and said, what's this tool? And it was like a video from Brazil or Argentina. I'm not actually quite sure, somewhere in South America. And it showed this tool that had 3 latch hooks that was making I-cord. And so I found that same video. I had seen it on Instagram like the week before, and I found the video and I shared it on Instagram, and I said, does anybody know where to order these? Does anybody know how to find one? I want to play around with this. Just looks like a fun new tool, and I love a fun new tool. Within 2 weeks, 2 people were making a similar tool. One of them is Autumn from Size Inclusive Collective. I will give you the links after this live below. And the other is Celeste from the Cranky Spinster. They're different. So one of the things I want to do is I'll be using both of them now underneath the camera so that you can see how they're similar and different. Autumn takes orders through her DMs on Instagram. So you send her a message, she sends you a link for PayPal, you give her her address, your address, she gets them to you. She doesn't have like a traditional shopping cart set up. And Celeste has a website, and I think she's going to be updating it on Thursday or Friday with more of them. So she only updates as she has. I'm really distracted because Max is fixing the lights and he's crawling underneath the camera right now. I'm just calling it like it is. This is live. We don't have to be slick. He could have just walked across. So to start with, I think that I will explain how it works a little bit, and then I will show you how to cast on and how it works a little bit more. And right now in my hand, I have one of the ones from Autumn at Size Inclusive Collective. And she just sent me this one with this really fun kind of Lola star on it. Look how well it matches my nails. It's like she knew. Oh, overhead camera. Distracted. Okay, underneath the camera, let's try that again. I've got the Cordsmith with the star in it from Autumn that she made for me, and then I have one from the Cranky Spinster. These both have latch hooks from like a sock machine or a knitting machine on them. So that's what these are. If you've ever done any rug hooking, you might be familiar with them. One of the things that you're going to notice about the two of them is how different they are, like how both of them kind of engineered them differently. Celeste did hers with an angle and her hooks are much smaller. I think that this one is better for like fingering weight or lace weight or sock weight yarn. And then Autumn's is a little bit bigger. You can do fingering weight on it, but your I-cord is a little looser. It does great with like sport weight, DK weight, bulky. So I'm not telling you you need both, but you might decide as you get into it that it would be fun to have both of them. But basically what happens is you just wrap your yarn over the 3 hooks, making sure that those latches are open, and then you just kind of pull and you have worked a row of I-cord. And so I'm just going to wrap that yarn around like that and then pull, and you've got another row of I-cord. This is a DK weight yarn that I'm working with right now. I'm going to kind of zoom in. Oh, that's pretty zoomed in so you can see it as well as you can. You can see the DK weight on the Cordsmith is a little bit looser. You've got like a little bit of sprang in that cord. Sprang. And then down here, I used the same yarn, but this I did on the Cranky Spinsters, and you can see it's much tighter, right? Like with that DK weight yarn, you end up with this really dense I-cord. So kind of depending on the application of the I-cord, like where you're using it, if you want to have that much sprang and looseness, or you want it to be tight. I did figure out with this one, if I wanted the I-cord to be tighter, when I go over, if I squeeze in and like bring these in tight, what that actually does is make the length of the new stitches being made shorter. And then that ends up making a tighter I-cord right there. I have figured out, I did when I was in Florida for Thanksgiving, I figured out how to use it to do attached I-cord edging along the edge, and I'll be using it when I get to the Novice baby. I'll use it to do my attached I-cord edging, and I think that that's going to make that I-cord edging go like so insanely quickly, and I'll try to shoot a video as I do that. I do believe I will have to not have this sparkly ass polish on my nails for that video because it will be just, oh, excuse me, distracting. So that's kind of like the basic concept. What this is doing is making an I-cord. When you work I-cord, you're basically making a tube with 3 stitches where your yarn from the last stitch is going over to the first stitch, and it kind of pulls all of those stitches together. I did see and I don't want to steal this from Olga, so you can go watch this on her Instagram later. My friend Olga, I'll give you a link below, figured out how to work it flat by just reversing which stitch you start the wrap with as you're going to work the wrap. So if you want to work something flat instead of in the round, you can do that as well. So I've got some yarn right here, and I'll go back to the overhead and I will do the zoomed in version right there so you can really see what's happening. And I'm going to show you how I have discovered I like to start. because one of the ways I saw to start, which is totally interesting, is you could start just by casting on 3 stitches onto a needle and then transferring them onto the tool. And then I saw another version that used a slip knot, but I found with the slip knot that I was getting this kind of unsightly loop at the bottom that I didn't like and I was trying to hide. And then I realized I could basically start with a magic circle. And there's actually 2 steps to be able to do this. So the first thing that I do is just make like a little overhand knot. And then I put the first and the third hooks into that, so the yarn is going over the first hook and it's going over the third hook, and then I can kind of pull up tight and kind of hold that end right there. And then I'm going to go over all 3 hooks, and what I forgot to say is make sure that your latches are open when you go to do this. And then I'm going to kind of pull down on the tail and pull all the way through, and then go back across. And when you do that, it'll feel weird because that middle stitch, I just made a stitch, but I wasn't pulling one through. And now this second time will really get you set up with 3. Oh, of course I dropped it because we're live. I hate that. So like, you just saw me use my teeth. If Max and I were doing this, we would just be like, cut, try that again. But since we're live, we're going to try it again, and I'll try to go slower so that doesn't happen again. Maybe it's good to be all realistic together. Okay, I've got that slip knot. I've got my 3 latches open. I'm going over. I'm going over. I'm pulling up tight. I'm bringing the yarn over. And then I'm kind of closing all of those latches and going over with all 3. And now I've got 3 stitches on my needles. And now this first one, and this is what I forgot to do, is I want to kind of go slow and deliberately and maintain my tension on my yarn and my tail so that none of those open up, and I can kind of pop over every stitch just to get myself kind of set up. I think... Did it not work again? I think that one. Really, guys, it's so slick. There you go. There we go. Now we're set up. And now that I'm set up, I should be able to just pull and go and get it going. And those first few rows are a little tricksy as you just kind of get the rhythm built. And then as you get it, your hand will be able to get more comfortable. And you can see I'm just kind of pulling on the bottom right there and pulling across right there. Isn't it cool? It's so fun to find new tools. I really love it. Let's get that kind of looking a little neater. And so if you are someone who does not like making I-cord and you have a project like, say, a cord for a hoodie maybe, or if you have I-cord edging, you can do I-cord edging. What else do we use I-cords for? If you need a tie for something, if you have a purse that you need to pull together, there are times when I-cord happens. A time that I use I-cord the most is when I want to do beaded I-cord, like say for like a lanyard or a piece of jewelry. So I actually, when I realized I could do something beaded with the I-cord, I took one of my Kairos kits and I made just like as many beads as come in the kit and as much yarn as came in the kit. I made an I-cord. I think I made this in like 6 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. And then I sewed a Kairos clasp onto the end. And it is a really awesome bracelet that you can wear. So those Kairos kits, y'all probably know they're in my shop. They look like that. And they have everything in them that you would need to make a cuff. And let's go over how to do the beadwork because that's pretty fun. The trick is to get your beads in between your hooks. So you can see I slipped up that bead. I've got it in between my hook. And then I'm just going to kind of pull back. And that bead is right there in between the hook. And then, oh, camera. Thank you. We'll try that again. I'll do 1 row plain. Okay. I am going to get the bead in between those two hooks right there. Squeeze. And then I'm going to get the yarn over and I do one row plain without any beads. And now this third one, I'm going to bring a bead all the way up so it's touching that last hook right there. Bring the yarn over, pull it through, do one more without any beads at all. I found it really needed that plain row in between the beads. Most of these beads in these kits are size 6 beads. There's some size 8 beads and those work, but they can kind of end up slipping up on top of the stitch instead of in between the stitches. So if you're going to use size 8 beads, I think that I would use the Cranky Spinster I-cord tool, because I think that because those needles are smaller and the stitches are smaller, that the size 8 beads won't end up getting lost. And then as you can see, as I kind of spin that around, you can see all of those beads in there and they're just kind of like in between the stitches playing around. Really, really fun and so easy. You saw how quickly I did that, right? So fun, yay, new tool. I'm excited to see what else we can do with it as everybody starts playing with it. This is, you know, when I show you things like this, you don't need this tool, but fun, right? Just fun new tools. I might have just bought a few for friends as thank yous for being amazing this year and so supportive. And hint, the giveaway tonight at the end is for one of the size inclusive collective Cordsmiths, because Autumn just sent me a second one. So I figured I should give you one to you. I'll give you the blue one that I bought, and then I'm going to keep the black one with the star for me. So that's kind of fun. Final thing I could show you, I thought I was done, is how to bind off, because that was another question I was getting on Instagram. I was getting the like, how do you cast on and how do you bind off? And this is what I came up with for binding off. I do think that there are probably a lot of ways to do it. The way that I came up with it I like the most is that I take a stitch off of the back needle and I put it onto the middle needle, and then I just bring the yarn over those two latch hooks and pull it off. And then I take the stitch, and I have to be careful to not lose it as I do this. I'm going to take that stitch off of the front needle, and then see, when y'all are watching I get nervous. And then I'm going to put that onto that hook. Sorry, I know my hand's covering it. So now I've got both of those loops on the middle hook, and I am going to bring the yarn over and then pull it through, and then I'm bound off. And what I was doing was trying to come up with a bind off that looked the most like the cast on, because I guess if you were like using it, remember that this was with the smaller tool and this is with the bigger tool. If you were looking at both ends of your I-cord, it would bug me if they looked very, very different. Like if they were hanging down from a hoodie, I just like things to be symmetrical in that way, technique wise. So I feel like that way that I just bound off matches the way I do the cast on the most. So just covered that for you. I saw Erin said she was about to ask, but I got it. Okay, that's my I-cord tool expose. Who wants to hear about travel in 2024 and 2025? I have 2 trips planned for 2024. I do not have a lot of teaching travel on the docket for 24. I'm trying to keep the year light. Last year 23 has been too much for me. It was too much going. It was not enough stopping to get stuff done here the way I want to. I feel like my garden ended up being the suffering point, which is fine, but it's something I love to do. And I can't be on the go that much. So I'm taking it down a notch. What happened in 23, we talked about this, is I just kept saying yes to things in 21 and 22 because I was like, well, 70% of shit gets canceled anyway, whatever. I'm just going to say yes to everything. And then like nothing got canceled the whole year, and it was fun. It was great to see so many of you, but I've got to balance a little. So I have a little bit of teaching in 24, not very much. I know that I'm going to try to go to TNNA in Chicago. I am teaching for a guild in State College, Pennsylvania at the beginning of April. That is my first gig of 2024. So I have the winter to ski, hopefully, hoping. And then in September of 24, I am going to be doing an Aran Islands retreat in Ireland. So we'll all be meeting in Dublin. We will be going to the West Coast together and spending 2 nights on the West Coast. And then we're going to have 4 nights on the Aran Islands. Every other trip I've done on the Aran Islands, we all wanted to be there more, like more. And it just felt like so fast. Like you get there in the afternoon, you have like 1 full day, you stay there for 2 nights, and then you like leave the next morning at 6 a.m. And it's the most amazing tease, but a tease. So I've always known we're really going to land. We're going to get to go to different islands. We're going to stay on the main island, do lots of things, have time to hike and walk and sit and knit and just soak in what I think is one of the most magical places in the world. And then we're going to have an optional extension for people who want to do more in Ireland if you came all that way, where we're going to go down to Killarney for 2 days and then go back to Dublin, or after the Aran Islands if you want to go off and do your own thing, or go back to Dublin and leave. That is also an option. So that trip is going to start on September 21st. I am not quite sure when it is going to open up for signups. At this rate, probably in January. It's possible it'll happen before then, but I'll be surprised. But if you are signed up for my mailing list, you will hear about all of these trips I am about to tell you about. The next trip, because I'm pretty sure Aran Islands is going to sell quickly, because who doesn't want to do that? I mean, I already have like 4 people who were like, can I come in your bag? And I was like, and I'll tell Max, I made $20 on the Aran Islands trip because I brought a lot of emotional support knitters with me this time. So very excited for that one. The next one I'm going to do is, I have never been to Spain. Have you been to Spain? I have always wanted to go to Spain. There's a possibility I'm going to go in the spring with Max and Bella. We are still working on that and trying to figure out what our family trip is this year. But Barcelona Knits, which looked like so much fun, is in Barcelona the weekend in November of the 16th and 17th. And I am going to do a crafty knitty trip with a group before Barcelona Knits, and then we're going to end up at Barcelona Knits and have a class with Carol Feller and have a class at Barcelona Knits, or more than one class at Barcelona Knits, and really kind of like hang out and have fun together in Spain. I found a espadrille class that we can all take together. I'm trying to get us to Wool Dreamers. I basically was like, this is the top thing I want to do with my travel agent. So we're really working on trying to maybe get a visit to the mill. I'm getting that itinerary super soon. I have a feeling that won't launch until like February-ish, but I just want you to know like everything coming down the pike so you know what you might be deciding to do with me. Plus ones are always welcome on trips. And what I will say about that is they are welcome if they want to come. Because one time we had a absolutely lovely knitter whose husband came and he did not want to be there. And that was a tiny bit difficult for everybody. I totally loved him and hung out with him. But, you know, when someone doesn't want to be on a trip, it can affect the mood of the bus a little bit. So plus ones who want to come. And non-knitters are always welcome as long as they're good with everybody talking about knitting all the time and knitting all the time, even at dinner, maybe not in the bathroom. Draw the line. Okay. The final thing is that in March of 2025, it is March 5th through 19th. I have been working on a cruise that goes from Buenos Aires around Cape Horn and ends up in Santiago, Chile. It is a 2-week cruise, so there's going to be like optional nights at the beginning and the end if you want to, but I really respect that with a cruise that long, there's not a lot of time for people to come early and do extra things on each end. I know I'm going to want to stay, I'm going to want to come in a little early and check out Buenos Aires, and I'm going to want to stay at the end and check out Santiago, because like, how could I go all that way and not do that? So that is March of 2025, and I believe we're going to release that for signups the first week of January. So, or maybe the second week of January. So those are like the 3 trips coming down the pike with me that you can look forward to for 24 and 25. It was really important to me to kind of like get that information out there so that if you want to travel with me, you can kind of start planning and maybe looking at your calendars, thinking about, you know, which or all, I'm going on all of them, of those make sense for you with your schedule. And you all know I love to travel, and I love to travel with knitters, and I'm just kind of really focusing into the things that I love to do. As always, I'm constantly like, does that bring me joy? Does that bring me joy? That brings me joy. Hanging out with you all brings me joy. So travel. That's that. I'll try to give you all those dates below just so you have them, or you can like listen back to this again later. In terms of sewing, I haven't been sewing a ton, but I am getting ready to make myself a flannel shirt because I really want a button down flannel shirt really badly, and I really want to make it because actually sewing with flannel is really, it's not easy, but it's easier because you can line up all the lines of the plaid. It's kind of helpful to be able to line things up. And so that is on my docket. I've got the pattern, I've got the fabric. I just got to sit down and do it. And then some of you might remember this project from when I had COVID last December. I started the lapel of a merino wool robe, and I decided that I wanted to like shibori or stitch the whole thing. So I'm showing you the front, but it looks all white, and that is stabilizer that is going to dissolve when I get this wet. I just thought it would be really fun to show it to you before I dissolve it. I think I'm going to dissolve it tomorrow, and then I just have to cut out the rest of the pieces for the robe, and that will sew up very quickly because I'll be able to sew it on my serger, and I've already sewn 2 of this robe pattern, and it's very easy and I know it well. But I think we all have a robe like this in our lives. Like mine is giant and red, and I look like a kind of squashed heirloom tomato in it. Like it's not the prettiest winter robe you've ever seen, and I'm really excited to have a robe that I like feel good about myself in, because I have summer robes I feel good about myself in, but my winter robe, when you come downstairs and you're like, here comes the tomato, who wants to hug a tomato this morning? You know what I'm saying? It is the stabilizer that came with Dua Lola. Good question. I just looked down and saw that real quick. Okay. Time to kind of wrap up with all my entertainment, and this is going to be quick when I talk to you about my entertainment. I just finished listening to the Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. Highly suggest. Very timely content, I think, for what is happening right now on the planet. It is a story that's set in the turn of the century ish, I would say, but it kind of, no, maybe it's more like 1930s, 1940s. Kind of could have happened now ish. I think it's an interesting listen. The other book that I just started listening to that I absolutely love is The Golem and the Jinni by Helene Wecker, and that has been on my list for a while, and I'm really, really enjoying that story. I've been like carrying my phone around with me in my pocket. On the side, I've also been listening to Spare by Prince Henry, because, you know, gotta have a little of that in your life. Reading, my buddy Sue Christensen sent me an email and suggested that I read The Dictionary of Lost Words by Pip Williams. Thank you so much for that suggestion, Sue. It is superb, but it's like the right kind of superb because I can still fall asleep. It's not like keeping me up and wanting me to like know more. It's like the best end of the day book. So I'm just getting like a chunk in every night and then I fall asleep, and it's not so engaging that I want to pick it up and read it again in the morning, which is good because I kind of need to get out of bed and get going with my days right now. But I know that I'll finish that over the holidays, and then maybe I'll get a little junk for fun. Speaking of junk, am I the only knitter who binge watched Golden Bachelor? Do y'all know what Golden Bachelor is? I have never watched The Bachelor. Like, gross, yucky, like girls dressing up all sexified for some like not even remotely interested in that. But Golden Bachelor is like a 72-year-old widower who is looking for like his second love, and it's 20 women in their like 60s and 70s that are also in similar situations who are looking for like a second chance. I sound like a commercial for Golden Bachelor. It was so sweet. I really loved it. And then I totally went to see if there was like any skinny about him, and there was a few like scandalous articles that made me kind of doubt him a little bit, but I don't know if they're fake news or not. But that's a good time if you have some holiday knitting to get done. Highly suggest. We can set up a thread in the Facebook group if you need to. Something a little bit more quality. I am watching Murder at the End of the World. I believe that is on Hulu, and it's set in Iceland, and a bunch of people who are like experts in their fields are brought together to this like remote retreat from this kind of very eccentric guy who's trying to fix global warming, but it's a little evil and people start dying. But it's set in Iceland, and the landscape is gorgeous, and I'm very involved in the characters, and I want to know why they're all dying or like what this backstory is. And I just saw somebody say they highly suggested Black Cake, and that is queued up next. I read that book. I just finished that book, and I really want to watch it. So thank you for saying that. And then finally, I do have, as part of like my Peacock per subscription, I think I get the Hallmark channel. And this is the time of year where Hallmark releases a slew of absolutely perfectly resolved holiday romance movies. So if you're someone who likes those movies, I really liked My Norwegian Holiday because that one had a bunch of knitting in it. So I'm going to suggest My Norwegian Holiday if you need to like do a little Christmas movie deep dive. I do think it's important for me to say Happy Hanukkah to everybody, and I'm going to remember also at the end of tonight. I just don't know of any good Hanukkah romance movies. If you know about any, please tell me because I will eat that up. Yum, yum, yum. Okay. Okay, so to kind of wrap up, I normally talk about what I'm cooking, and I've not been cooking a lot. I've been grazing a fair amount. I'm not sure that serves me well. I actually think cooking meals might be better for my health, but we are entering this season of puff pastry, and when I go to the baby shower this weekend, I am going to be making puff pastry items. My friend asked me yesterday. I said, yes, I can do some puff pastry goodies for 40 people. I love doing things with puff pastry. I forgot that I don't have an oven, and luckily I texted her to be like, so puff pastry is like so much better when you bake it like and eat it right away. So is there an oven where we're going? Because can I just use the oven there? And then, she wrote me back and said, yes, yada, yada. And then parentheses, I was like, because I don't have an oven. So I bake things I can make in my toaster oven. And one thing that I saw that's so cute that I want to try to make for Saturday are these little like puff pastry beds where you take like a rectangle of puff pastry, and then you take a like Teddy Graham or like little like kid-sized cracker, and you kind of put it there, and you put a little jam as a pillow, and then you kind of fold up the rectangle and tuck them in, and then you bake them, and you have this little like Teddy Graham bear in a bed, which I think sounds super cute for a baby shower. I'm going to try to make a few of those, and then something savory. I make this like kind of sun-shaped thing. I'll give you a link to the sun because it's so yummy below. So things with puff pastry. I did that for the Rhinebeck house, and they all thought I was magic, and I just pulled something out of the freezer and slapped some stuff inside of it and twisted it. So yes to puff pastry. Our next live is going to be January 17th. Oh, get ready with questions. As I'm telling you these last few things, get ready with any questions that you might have for me. I'm kind of looking at that. The next live, my plan is January 17th at 7:30 p.m. If trips haven't already opened by then, they definitely will be right around that time. I'm timing that live so that I can talk more in depth about the Lola's Choice project, because everybody will have received the January Lola's Choice project by then. So good timing on that. Sometimes I do the lives too early and I can't talk about them. The last Logs live, I announced, the one that we just had, I'm about to announce the winner for that and then tell you what the prize is and what the prompt is for this one. I'm just waiting to see if there are any questions. We got Harlequin Romance, my high school go-to. Leslie, I have not talked about Knit for Food. Mo says that I should line my puff pastry with asparagus, Dijon, olive oil, and Gruyere. Yum. Susie wants to know, I can't tell you what's so special about Lolember on December 15th, besides that it tastes really good. Erin, I am going to start carrying that yarn in the new year in my shop, I think, because it's really fun to just kind of carry along, and I don't know many places carrying it, and it's really small, so it's really easy to put in the shop. I actually just ordered some for photography, so that was a very good question. Knit for Food. I am going to announce the date for real in the new year. I just have to confirm with one more person. I believe it is going to be Saturday, March 23rd of 2024, but that is like almost definite. And we're just kind of waiting on one final thing that, let me see. I'm just seeing if I missed any other questions. I think we're good. I don't see any others coming in. I will give you links to everything as soon as we are done here. Okay, so last live's giveaway. The winner is Kathy Machowski. I asked you all what your favorite fiber retreat or fiber getaway or fiber show was, and she said that she loves the Tip of the Mitt Fiber Festival in Petoskey, Michigan. She marks it on her calendar every year. She spends a day wandering around with friends. The What Knit Yarn Company from Traverse City is a must-stop and buy from every year. So I'm gonna have to check that one out. I've not really spent a lot of time in Michigan. I think that would be a fun road trip to take the van, drive up there, go to some other shows. Like those smaller Fiber Fests are so much fun. Sorry, I just got distracted. Ruth C said something about, I did update the spreadsheet. She's asking about the spreadsheet for Lolember. I did update it right after it came out, 3 hours after it came out. So if you used your code or bought it after that, you wouldn't have seen an update. There is one more update to do with the formatting thing. I'm just waiting to see if there's any more errata before I do another update. So good one sneaking in, because we are finishing right now. So if you would like to win this Cordsmith right here, and you know what? I'm going to throw in a Kairos kit with this Cordsmith, since I was making one on here. Leave a comment below telling me what your favorite knit of 2023 is. Don't leave that in the live chat where you're all chatting right now. Wait for the video to be over and then come back in 5 or 10 minutes and leave a comment and let me know what your favorite knit of 2023 is. Bonus points if it's one of my designs. Just joking. It can be any design. I know you all knit more than just my designs, and I love hearing about other designs and what you love knitting. So this is kind of fun market research for me to hear about your favorite knit of 2023. And I will announce the winner on the next live on January 17th. Thank you all so much for watching. I love doing these lives with you. You're an absolute blast. You ask great questions. I hope you got a lot of knitting done. I hope your thongs are growing on your needles. I can't wait to see your Lolaettes till you start to roll your dye and we get a little loose and crazy together. Have a good night. Happy knitting.